Right now, when bad choices catch up with you, plus saying I apologize. Seems easy enough, right? But oh, not so fast, my friends. Those two words are way harder for some than others. Get ready, because the chat starts now. And welcome to the chat. I'm Catalina Allures. The Chatty Cathy's on the other side of the table. Henny and Angelia on the panel today. Unbelievable. Isn't it? We chat with everyone, not amongst ourselves.
Oh, is that how it goes?
Yeah, every now and then.
All right.
Behind the program,
the real
show.
Oh, my Lord. All right, well, let's get started with another late night monologue that's going viral. But unlike Jimmy Kimmel's, this one's not so heartwarming. Stephen Colbert held nothing back in a rant about President Donald Trump last night. Colbert was unhappy about the way Trump treated Face the Nation host John Dickerson. And while many may have agreed with a lot of what he had to say, it's one line that now has people calling for him to be fired.
You attract more skinheads than free Rogaine. You have more people marching against you than cancer. You talk like a sign language gorilla who got hit in the head. In fact, the only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster.
Ooh, quick correction. This was from Monday Night's show. So the hashtag #FireColbert quickly began trending, with some calling him a bigot and his comments homophobic and anti-American. So it's not surprising that Colbert, would come off pretty fiery, but this was, I mean, he was fired up in a way that we don't normally see.
Well, if you saw the whole monologue, it was actually pretty funny. And I mean, I like comedy, and especially comedy in politics. I do like it. I appreciate it. You know where I fall in the line of politics? I fall to the Trump side. But that being said, he was funny in the majority of his monologue. And then it was only really the last couple of minutes that he went on a total rampage. In the last couple of minutes, he said so many horrible things. I mean, horrible. It wasn't even, I mean, they were so mean and disrespectful to anyone, but especially to our commander-in-chief. And I think that's why it really hit a nerve with so many people. That he went after Trump in such a mean, horrible way. It wasn't a comedy way. It was horrible. And things that he said, I mean, things, Hitler's going to go Hitler, tax return, and I don't even know if I can say this on television, but your private parts of a man, and comparing those two together, and made a little analogy of it. And so that was really disrespectful and kind of yucky and horrible to watch. But then there was a really funny part of it, which I was laughing about, the Oval Office. And that was talking about Trump saying, I had someone who came in that everybody knows, very well respected, very well known person. He came into the Oval Office and really lost it, cried his eyes out. And then, he actually, came back with his, thing and saying, well, if I went into the Oval Office and saw you sitting there, I'd cry too. And that's funny, but that's what you want to have in late night humor about anything, about any kind of thing, if it's politics or people or whatever it is. But take a side of taking maybe the higher road we were talking about earlier, taking that higher road and being funny on a funny level, not on a cruel level. I think that was really rude and really disrespectful. But that's me, and there's lots of people that agree, but there's lots of people that disagree because they fall on a different side of politics.
Right. Now, I'm not condoning the words that he said. I am not saying I agree with them or I disagree with them. I am saying this is expected for late night TV. I am saying that this is no worse than what they do on SNL. And I am saying to the comment that you made about being disrespectful and crossing that line, well, grabbing by the coach is not too far from that either, when President Trump made that comment about the woman grabbing her by the you-know-what. So, you know what?
He didn't know he was being recorded.
Doesn't matter.
He said it.
He said it.
So that's
he
different.
Still said it, regardless.
Didn't know you were being recorded.
So, I mean, politics aside, though, I mean, the only thing I don't agree with what he said was the phallic joke at the end, talking about, Vladimir Putin's whatever little thing.
That was the best part.
That was
funny.
It comes off a little homophobic, and it's not the best joke to make. But I mean, the reason why he did it makes sense, because Face the Nation's host John Dickerson is a well-respected journalist. We're in the climate where a lot of journalists, you can almost tell what side they lean towards in their reporting, and they're not doing their jobs very well right now. But John Dickerson continues to do a really good job as a journalist, and he's known for throwing in off-script questions. He's done it with Hillary Clinton. He did it with President Bush. And so it looks like he did this with President Trump in that interview. And Trump's response was to just end it, to just end the interview, like super unceremoniously. And so, I mean, so this is where we're asking our journalists to do their jobs and continue to, you know, hold people in power accountable. And then you have the commander-in-chief not being honest. He asked him about the wiretapping, if he still believes that President Obama wiretapped him, and he is basically not wanting to answer the question and says, I have my opinions, you have your opinions. That's not an opinion. You're basically saying someone committed a crime against you. That's not an opinion.
It's been proven it was not true.
So the reason that Stephen Colbert, you know, went on this whole tirade is very justified in my opinion.
But people are frustrated right now in this world. There's a lot going on in this world. There's a lot coming out of the White House right now that has never been done before. This is a whole new climate. So look, I'm not condoning anyone's activity and the words that they say, but at the same time, people are frustrated, and I get it. Bottom line, you got some viewer comments.
Stephen Colbert is very frustrated, obviously. And we have a lot of people who actually commented on our Facebook. John said, if someone said the same thing about Obama, they would already be gone. For anyone to deny this, well, I don't think delusional is a strong enough word to use. Didi commented, I believe he went too far and should be fired. Sorry, CBS, but you are the loser in this one. And Charles threw in, I love the hashtag Fire Colbert, people talking about boycotting his show. His show isn't on Fox News, so when the hell have they watched it? That's a pretty fair point there, Charles. I mean, everyone just get used to this feeling. Anywhere. We're going to see this for the next 4 years. So everyone just pick your battles. So don't like try and tweet out fire everyone when someone's got an opinion, because everyone's going to have a lot of opinions over the next 4 years.
What's interesting, though, is Bill O'Reilly loses his job over accusations. And then we have Stephen Colbert, who says something completely derogatory, and it's dismissed.
There's a difference, though. That's a comedian.
All right, I'm moving on from this one.
Yes,
please. Let's keep going.
Hurry up, because I got something to say.
All right, well, the summer issue of GQ Style hits the newsstands this morning, and the cover man is Brad Pitt himself, and he's got some people talking. This is the first interview the actor has given since announcing his divorce from Angelina Jolie back in September. It gets pretty candid, though, about love, loss, and his use of alcohol, fatherhood, and how to move forward after things fall apart. A lot of people are surprised, though, to hear that he had such personal struggles, and even more, that he's sharing them with the world now. So what do you ladies think about him, I guess, releasing everything and saying all that he needs to say or wants to say? What do you think?
I'm really surprised. Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt have been such a very private couple their entire relationship. I was so surprised he was this honest. But I think it's because it dealt with his kids.
Yes, and I was going to say, you know, sometimes as women, as humans, whether it's a man or a woman, we know love will break you down and make you do things and open up and say things. If you haven't experienced it, keep living, because you will. When you are with that person and you know it's the right person, when you stand a chance to lose them forever, it makes you revise and rethink your whole life. And if this is what's required of him to get his family back together, to get better visitation with his kids, to have a better relationship with his kids, you got to do what you got to do, bottom line. You know, it's unfortunate, which he looks like he's lost quite a bit of weight in these pictures. Like,
he's old, he's 53, he's aging too.
I know.
Stress and age, oh yeah.
You know, he actually said in an interview, he said, he's talking about, you know, alcohol and his a problem. He says, me personally, I can't remember a day since I got out of college when I wasn't boozing or had a spliff. He says he called drugs and alcohol.
Spliff is marijuana, in case you were wondering.
Look, I didn't even know what that was, but I didn't want to say it.
Just saying.
That's what you call it?
It's
okay.
marijuana.
He actually said that alcohol was a pacifier that allowed him to keep running from his feelings. I get it. There's a lot of people, both male, female, celebrity or not, that deals with the same issues. And unfortunately, alcohol seems to be the go-to. Alcohol and drug abuse seems to be the one thing that they go to. He says he stopped boozing. He says, I stopped everything except boozing when I started my family. But even last year, you know, things that I wasn't dealing with, and I started boozing way too much, and it just became a problem. And if y'all will remember, he and Angelina actually owns a winery. They actually purchased a multi-million-dollar French vineyard back in 2012, and they paid $60 million for it. It's called Château Miraval Estate. So they actually own a winery. And
I can be the wine taster if Brad can't do it anymore. I'm good with that.
But it's like a purchase like that. I mean, there's no way. If he's been drinking for probably over 20 years of it, since college,
way over
20 years, there's no way that Angelina didn't know.
True.
And to then like buy a winery, I mean, at what point are you kind of enabling the problem?
But you know what? A lot of times alcoholics are the first ones to be in denial.
Well, yeah,
so when they went to buy that, he could have been like, well, you know what? It's an investment. It's going to, you know, have a great life for my kids. They'll never have to work. Their education's paid for. And believe me, they have, their wine is very, very successful. They actually have 4 different wines on the market. One is a rosé, 2 white, and 1 red. And the rosé in particular has been extremely well received by reviewers. It actually ranked 84th on the Wine Spectator's list of top 100 wines, the only rosé to ever make the list. So they're making money. I'm saying that to say
great. I mean,
they're
so he's
making
great
money.
at making money, but it means nothing if he's miserable.
True.
And their marriage was miserable, and their family was constantly struggling.
But the fact that he came out and he's admitting, and he's, to me, he's crying out for help. He's laying down the groundwork. As we may know, alcoholics, one of the first things that they have to do when they get help is they have to admit to the people that they may have hurt, that they may have loved. So this can all be a part of the process.
Do you think he's an alcoholic, though,
Yep.
or do you think he was just partying
Alcoholic.
and go? Really? See,
I do.
I feel like over that much time, though.
He admitted it by
I
saying
think
he ain't been sober since he left college.
He didn't say sober. He said he's been drinking since he left college.
I wasn't
that's-
boozing or had a joint.
So have I. I mean, I've had
You have
drinks.
not.
I mean,
Well,
I've had
having
drinks
a glass
since
of
college.
wine.
Day.
I mean, not every day, but I
Right.
mean, you know, a lot of us have. But I mean, there's so many. They've been divorced for 8 months. The best part of the takeaway that I got from the interview was him talking about when, I guess this initially happened, child services were on him like crazy, remember? Because he was, you know, accused of so many things. And so with that, he was saying that they had him on his back. And that was tough for him because he couldn't speak. He couldn't make any strides forward. He couldn't do anything. And the one thing that he wanted was to make sure that attorneys did not get involved with their situation, because when attorneys get involved, no one wins, and all you do is spew hatred toward one another, and no one wins. And just from somebody who's been through a divorce, it is not a pretty process, and I think that he's actually laying the groundwork for trying to get back together. I think that they will eventually get back together. I think he's trying to make strides. I think he's doing everything in his power. I think they have 5 beautiful children together, and I think that that will be the glue that will get them back together and eventually stay together.
Yep. I wish him the best of luck with trying to get sober and to stay sober. You know, actually in the interview, Brad never said what the final straw was that broke his marriage, but it's kind of easy to suspect that Angelina had given him an ultimatum or 2, and that got us to thinking, do ultimatums ever actually work in relationships? Now, of course, some people view ultimatums as a sacrifice that someone is actually forced to make, but others think it can put what you really want into perspective. So, ladies, what are your thoughts on giving your significant other, whoever it may be, what are your thoughts on giving them an ultimatum?
That's such a last resort. And if you give an ultimatum, you better be ready to like deal with
the realness.
The realness. Because
Yeah.
if you say either you do this or I'm out, you better be ready to peace out. Like, or you lose all respect in the relationship because here you are trying to throw down the gauntlet and you don't mean it.
Right.
And it's such a last resort. I feel like there's all kinds of steps to go through before you give an ultimatum.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's a tough situation because I feel like women always think that they can put an ultimatum out there and it will draw a man right in, or your spouse or girl, whatever it is.
Yes,
and I think that men, on the other hand, go, well, if it's not broke, why are we going to change it?
Do.
Why change it?
My
Why fix it when everything is going so well? Why do we want to throw that wrench in there?
It's going well to them because they get to buy. Why buy the cow when the milk is free?
Well,
they got to put a stop to that. Absolutely, I agree. I don't think ultimatums ever work because you are forcing that person to do something that obviously they did not want to do. If they wanted to do it, you wouldn't have had to put the ultimatum on them. So then they feel the pressure. And we know what happens when a person feels pressure. They're backed into a corner. They're stressed out. They're unhappy. Unhappiness leads to depression. Depression can lead to a failed relationship, and it can lead to infidelity.
This is a domino effect of negativity.
It is. Ladies or men, if you have to give them an ultimatum, they don't want you.
How many times have you said to somebody, though, if you love me, you do this?
Oh, there's a lot of people use that line.
It's so manipulative.
I hate that. Do that. But the thing is, if you say you love me, you would marry me. If you love me, you would do this. Yeah. But then that creates resentment on the other side because you go, well, I had to ask for it. And because I had to ask for it, that's the only reason you're giving it to me. So then you get resentful and angry, and you really aren't happy.
And the ultimatum didn't help anything at all.
And you know, I know of someone who met someone, and the first night that they met, they told the person, this is what I'm looking for. And as far as dating, I'm looking for a man, I'm looking for a husband, blah, blah, blah. As time went on, maybe after about 3 weeks, they posed an ultimatum to this man. Now we're talking about a 50-plus-year-old woman, right?
No.
She gave him an ultimatum, and guess what? He fell for it.
Oh, no.
They were married within a few months, and within less than a year, they were divorced.
Well, because ultimatums are not about anything but control.
Yes.
I mean, it's
not just
control,
but a lot of women, a lot of people are lonely. It's something to help them pull in the
manipulative. It's so unhealthy. You just don't do it.
Very unhealthy.
Avoid ultimatums at all costs.
Yep.
That's a takeaway from this one.
Yes.
All right, well, coming up next, does it matter who makes more money in the relationship? We discuss struggles some couples face when the norm is thrown off balance. Stay with us.